Whilst I was on vacation a few weeks ago, I spent some time overlooking the beautiful Adriatic Ocean and doing what I love to do best, which is to reflect on different things and to come up with my independent thoughts about them. And one of the thoughts that came up was on some reasons why we often feel stuck at certain points in our lives and we don't seem to move past that stage no matter how badly we want to. These reasons are very limiting and constricting. Some of them I have personally experienced myself, and I've watched others experience some of these things as well. And so, as we draw closer to the end of the year, I have made this video to give you a window into some of the reasons why you may feel stuck and how you can unstuck yourself before the new year. You care so much about other people's opinions of you. For the most part, as humans, a lot of us care about what other people think about us. As much as we would like to be woke and pretend like we don't, the truth is we actually do. We do care about what other people think about us. But then the question is, to what extent do you care? On the spectrum of caring, where do you sit? When you care so much about other people's opinions to a point where every decision you make is filtered through the lens of societal acceptance, this is where there's a problem. Lately, I have been delving into the world of Stoicism. And of course, Marcus Aurelius, who happens to be one of the proponents of Stoicism, said that largely as humans, we love ourselves a lot more than we love other people. But we care so much about other people's opinions than our own. And in many cases, these opinions are of strangers that we have never met and that we may never meet in our lifetime. But we let these opinions hold us back, almost to a point where it feels like we're supporting characters in movies about our own lives. And I've observed, at least with myself, that in many cases, there's often an overestimation of the extent to which we think people care. We magnify the level to which we think people care about our decisions, our actions, and even our appearances. And we go through our daily activities with an illusion of a spotlight that does not exist in reality. The effect of this conjured spotlight was coined in a paper published in the year 2000 by a couple of psychologists. And in this research, the psychologists conducted a series of experiments to explore how we perceive the extent to which other people notice and evaluate our behaviors and our appearances. And the experiment consistently proved that we overestimate how much attention we think other people are paying to us. We assume that other people are thinking about us the same way we're thinking about ourselves, when in fact they are also thinking about themselves. So all of that fear of what would people think if I post consistently online, or what would they say if I do not wear the latest brand of that designer, is in fact largely a projection of our own thoughts. And the sooner we're able to shrink that spotlight, the easier it will be for us to unstuck ourselves. So, caring so much about people's opinions, or in many cases, what we think are people's opinions, may be one of the reasons why you may be feeling stuck. And if you want to unstuck yourself, you need to remind yourself that no one really cares. You don't take personal responsibility. As much as a lot of us would like to have our superhero moment, where our favorite superheroes, mine, Doctor Strange, would come to save us from the most dramatic situations. The truth is, no one is coming. And I learned this the hard way. But the moment I realized that I am my earthly savior and the responsibility for my progression was in no one else's hands but mine, things completely changed. I asked ChatGPT what taking personal responsibility meant, and it said, taking personal responsibility means acknowledging that our choices, actions, and decisions shape our lives. When someone avoids personal responsibility, they tend to blame external factors or other people for their circumstances, mistakes, or challenges. This avoidance of responsibility can create a cycle of stagnation where learning and growth are hindered because one doesn't recognize the power that they have to change their situation. And it's sad to see a lot of people remain stuck in this cycle of stagnation year on year, feeling helpless and not knowing what to do. I watched this video very recently where Mel Robbins said that there's so many things that we're not responsible for. We're not responsible for some of the circumstances that we may have been born into. Neither are we responsible for some unfortunate situations that may have happened to us. But we're responsible for our healing. And I think the first step to healing is in taking personal responsibility. And I'm not here to trivialize anyone's situation. Our circumstances are clearly very different. And the things that you may have gone through, I probably will have no clue of these things in my entire lifetime. What I've, however, done to navigate my own challenges is to be at peace with the things that have already happened, and especially those things that I cannot change, and then take responsibility for what happens next. If you're waiting for the people who have wronged you to apologize and make amends for the things that they have done to you, you're going to be waiting for a very long time. And as piercing as this may sound, the only way you can get better outcomes is to stop pointing fingers and start taking ownership of your situation. And I think the thing that I would like to leave you with is to understand that you have agency. And so minimize to a very large extent the portion of your agency that you're giving away. You have a herd mentality, or simply put, you don't have a mind of your own. And herd mentality is a phenomenon that is dated back to our earliest evolution, where our survival was hugely dependent on being accepted by the group. Because without the group, we'll be isolated and we could die by cold, starvation, or predators. And so, this need for social acceptance and belonging has now become hardwired into our evolutionary psychology, so much so that our response to being different from the group or doing something else that the group is not doing is fear. We're scared of standing out and we will rather follow the crowd and conform to whatever is popular, even when it doesn't feel right. And this pressure of the head was confirmed in an experiment that was conducted by a psychologist called Solomon Ark in 1951. And in this experiment, participants were given a simple visual task to match lines of different lengths. And what was interesting was that some of these participants were actually working with the experimenter and they were told to intentionally choose the wrong answers. What ended up happening was that even though the unaware participants knew the correct answers, 75% of them still ended up choosing the wrong answer. And when they were asked why they did that, they said that they didn't want to stick out of the crowd. That was why they went with the answer of the majority. This shows how much of an influence a group can have on an individual's choice. And in the bid to act and be like everyone else, we slowly lose our individuality. And then we become frustrated and remain stuck at the same time. I have found that the most freeing way to break away from the stronghold of herd mentality is to ask ourselves why. It's so simple, but it does a lot of magic. Ask yourself, why? Am I angry about this thing? Or am I expected to be angry about it because people like me should be angry about this thing? I think there are a lot of battles that we are carrying and a lot of choices that we are making, not because we have thought them through, but because everyone else seems to be carrying and choosing it. So, critical thinking and being in tune with your internal compass are viable ways to break away from the herd mentality and unstuck yourself from whatever situation that is holding you back. You're living in a self designed cage. I like to think that mentally we all live in metaphorical houses. The architecture, the aesthetics, and how big the house is dependent on your self narrative. What labels are you placing on yourself? What stories are you telling yourself? What limits are you confining yourself to? Because the stories you tell yourself about yourself soon becomes the house that you live in. Are you living in a cage or are you living in a castle? These are questions that you genuinely need to ask yourself. And I find that in many cases, these stories soon become self fulfilling prophecies. So, for instance, if the story that you tell yourself is that you're worthless, you soon start exhibiting behaviors to the effect of being worthless. And before you know it, you actually become worthless. And even though the original story was false, it influences your behavior in a way that the original story that was false then becomes true. And several studies have shown over and over again that these narratives have the capacity to stunt our progress and put us in a box of our own creation. But I like to think that the beautiful thing is that these narratives can change. It's not an easy feat, but it's possible. Something can be done about it. In the book Mindset by a psychologist called Carol Dweck, she maintained that adopting a growth mindset allows you the confidence to shatter those limiting boxes that you have designed. Personally, I think that when you take action and you stack up relevant evidences that disproves those limiting beliefs, you're then able to rewrite a new story for yourself and then build this new metaphorical house that then becomes conducive for you to live in. So, for instance, if your narrative is that you're not smart, you need to figure out what standards you're measuring yourself against. Because I am now more aware that smartness doesn't start and end at the four walls of school. My university self is currently shaking right now. It could be that you're good at business or creating or public speaking. Whatever it is, figure it out and do it so well to a point where you outwork your self doubt. And the neurons of your brain are then rewired to quell any story within you that you're not smart. In this way, you're able to unstuck yourself from your self designed cage. You're not taking action. One of my favorite things to say is that ideas are cheap. Get your skin in the game and start taking action. It's easy for me to lay on my bed and start building castles in the air. I could expend mental energy in wishing to work at X company, wishing to speak at a conference of my dreams, or wishing to have X subscribers on YouTube. And by the way, if you're not yet subscribed, please do. I could do all of these things, but if I don't do the actual thing that will get me there, I'll remain stuck in that cycle of manifesting and dreaming without achieving anything. And this is not a place that you want to be. A few years ago, I remember writing on LinkedIn that if I was going to write a book, I'll title that book The Space in Between. And right now, that may not be a name that I would give to any book that I would write, but the idea is that the space in between your current life and your dream life can only be closed by the actions that you take now and not just by dreaming. So the reason you're probably still stuck is because you're not even taking any step. Move, get your skin in the game. Manifestation, affirmation, dreaming, all of these things are great. But in my opinion, taking action is the gold standard. So there you have it. The reason you're probably feeling stuck is because of one or more of these reasons. Figure out what is holding you back and let me know what actions you'll be taking away from this video. If you've learned something today, don't leave without hitting the like button. It really helps me. Enjoy the rest of your day and I'll catch you on my next one. Bye.